Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. So glad you've joined me today. If you're new and listening for the first time, we just want to let you know we're so glad you're here. And I'm glad you're here to study along with me. We're just studying through the Psalms verse by verse, taking it as it comes, one day at a time, one verse at a time, going all the way through the book of the Psalms, and we're in 116. Today we're looking at verses 12 through 15. 12 through 15 is our subject today, and I said yesterday that the man who has been saved, he's seen his sin, he's called upon the Lord has saved him, delivered him from the pains of hell. He's living a holy life, making his confession before men who don't appreciate that. We talked about the conflict that happens between the holy life and the corrupt world around it. And now today we're going to see what he does, what happens because of that. Because remember yesterday he said, I said in my haste. So he knew it wasn't right for him to say, all men are liars. But that's just the despair coming out, because that conflict creates within the life that's trying to live holy this doubt, this struggle. And so sometimes we break and we say things, or we feel things that maybe we shouldn't. But, that's part of our growth process, really, in the Lord. What does he do about that? What happens? So we're going to read today verses 12 through 15. What shall I render unto the Lord for all his benefits towards me? I will take the cup of salvation and call upon the name of the Lord. I will pay my vows unto the Lord now in the presence of all his people. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. That's 12 through 15. Now you'll notice immediately what does he do? He's under the gun. He's finding that conflict that we all find when we try to live a holy life. The conflict between holiness and the corruption that is so prevalent around us. He looks to the Lord in verse 12. What shall I render unto the Lord for all his benefits towards me? He does not focus on the liars now. See, he goes from that. He rejected that there in verse 11. He said, I said in my haste, all men are liars. But now he rejects that, and he looks at the Lord, and he says, Lord, what can I give you for all your benefits? Now, what are the benefits? Look back up into the second section, 5 through 8. Graciousness, righteousness, mercifulness. He preserves the simple. He helped. He dealt bountifully with me. He's delivered my soul from death. So those are the benefits in this psalm that he's already referred to. So when he says his benefits towards me, well, let's just think of those things for a moment. So what can you do? What is it that you can do to render unto the Lord for all those benefits? He says, I will take the cup of salvation. So he's going further now into worship. He's going further into his devotion. I will take the cup of salvation. And then we come back to our repeating phrase, and I will call upon the name of the Lord. You see, in verse 4, he said, then I called upon the name of the Lord, because the pains of hell had got hold of him, and trouble and sorrow found him. So he calls on the name of the Lord, and the Lord delivers him. So now he's been delivered, he's saved, he's a new creation now, but he comes here to this time of trouble, and he looks to the Lord, and he says, oh, wait a minute, I know what I'll do. I'll call upon the Lord again. Because every time we find ourselves in trouble, what's the remedy? The Lord, calling upon the name of the Lord. And then we have this beautiful phrase that follows afterwards, which is found in verse 14 and in verse 18. It's in both places, and it follows the same statement, I will call upon the name of the Lord. Let me read it. I will pay my vows unto the Lord now in the presence of all his people. So again, we have a congregational statement here, in the presence of all his people. And then we have this statement, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. Death was not a good thing earlier, was it? Death had found him. Sorrows of death had compassed him. The pains of hell had got hold on him. Oh, and he'd found trouble and sorrow. But now, death is precious, because death does not include the pain of hell and the separation from God and the separation from the Lord's people and all of that. Now death is precious because he's in the Lord. And so he says, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. So now he's looking forward to what's to come. He's satisfied with the Lord because the Lord has blessed him, and all those benefits he gave him have led him to this point to say, now death is not an enemy. Death is really a friend, because death brings me now into the presence of the Lord. Now join me tomorrow. We're going to look at 16 through 19 on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.